Hey guys, what's up? It's Stacking Chairs, the youth ministry podcast all about serving in youth ministry, whether it be youth group or youth camp, whatever God has you serving in, that's what we're talking about. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Paul Hamus. I'm joined not by Kyle again today. He's still on vacation, but I am joined by my good friend and guest, Tyler Critchlow. Tyler, tell him hi.
That's me. Hey.
Tyler,
my name's Tyler.
How's your day going so far?
It's going good. You know? Gotta go pick my truck up here in a minute from the mechanics, but other than that, it's going great.
Yeah. And this is your first time on Stacking Chairs.
Yeah, first time.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so Tyler Critchlow. I've worked at Word of Life for, I think, since 2019.
Okay.
So did camp interning and then a bunch of other positions, moved around.
Yeah.
And, you know, now.
Well, you've been around Word of Life longer than you've just been on staff.
Yes, yeah. So I did first year, second year, and then, well, before those two, I did, I counseled the year before, or the summer before I came to the
I don't think I knew that.
So, yeah.
So you started doing, you did the Bible Institute in 2017, correct?
Yes, 17, so 2016 summer is what I worked, and then I went 2016, 17, 17, 18. 18, 19 is when I started working.
Okay. Well, because you did second year in New York.
Yes.
And then that was the year that my wife and I met, was while you were in second year.
Yeah, you were on staff.
Yeah.
I remember filming videos. I don't know if you were there. Yeah, when we did our program videos.
Oh, yeah,
I remember you and a bunch of staff up there.
What was the program video that year?
I think it was, I don't even know.
What was the theme? Do you remember? Was it Log Out?
Yes, Log Out.
Okay, so then,
So I wasn't in much. It was
two
guys who were kind of one for red, one for blue. And
No. So you actually filmed that. You filmed that with Jonah.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. So that's very easy to confuse because we both have the same last name.
Oh, Paul Hamus.
Yeah.
But you were there though. You were in the office.
I may have. Yeah, I was in the office. Yeah. So that was back when I oversaw the media department or the media team up there in New York, and so that was just a long time ago now.
Yeah.
And now I've been here in Florida for 4 years. So,
dude, time flies.
Time does fly. All right. So tell us a little bit more about what it is that you've done here at Word of Life while you've been on staff. And then we're going to talk a little bit more. We're not going to focus on the Word of Life part. We're going to focus more on your upcoming role.
Oh, okay.
Just as a little bit of a spoiler. But tell us a little bit more about the foundation you've had here at Word of Life, especially on staff.
Yeah. So started my first 2 years, new position, first guy in the position, to my knowledge, camp intern position. And it was just kind of an idea. And we were like, whoa, this would be cool.
Yeah.
You know, we have camps every single year. That's something that, the BI and camps are our two biggest, at least from what I've seen.
Sure.
Our two biggest sources of not only getting people in and understanding oh, hey, this is what Word of Life is. This is what we do. This is the mission God has set before us. But then also just so many different other areas. And those 2 years, it was conceptual, or I don't know, conceptual, is that the right word? Just the concept of I don't know if this is.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
A possibility, and I was able to do it for 2 years. And then, just kind of moved on to a retreats thing where I helped be in kind of a role where we would rent the campus off, right, to people. They would come on for a week, and I was kind of the personal guy that would hey, y'all need any help?
Yeah.
And then after that, did recruitment. So then I just traveled a bunch for a year, gone a couple months at a time. Drove to Texas. That was really fun, and just kind of met a lot of people through that, and then transitioned into what we call legacy. Where me and Bobby Brown were the legacy team leaders. He was for the North, I was for the South, and we just kind of...
Want to explain legacy, because a lot of people aren't going to know what that is.
So legacy is this cool thing that we have for alumni. So anyone who's graduated first or second year and has a heart for music ministry, they get to come with us. And I was the leader. So we would take a van and a big trailer, all of our stuff, all of our equipment, and just stay at Airbnbs and hotels and drive around.
It's a band.
Yeah, and it's
I don't think you mentioned.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a traveling band.
traveling band. Yeah, that's probably
you were really
the
good at
most
this recruitment thing, right?
No, yeah, dude, I'm recruiting right now. No, it was really fun. So we would go in and we would have preaching and kind of do chapels for people and special events that Word of Life put on. but we would always provide more than anything the music side of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's really
No, that's cool. So you've done, I mean, you've heard the old phrase, jack of all trades.
Yes, master of none.
Typically, yeah, but I'll give you the master of at least one. You know, we'll say that.
Hopefully.
I always say that. I'll say jack of all trades, master of at least one.
Yeah.
But you've been a jack of all trades at Word of Life. So let's take that and let's transition it into the new role you're moving into.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the new role, and then I want to ask a question as to where this is all coming from here.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. On theme, on brand, it's like doing something new every single year.
Yeah.
And yet again, so I'm transitioning out of Word of Life into a church role, which is very interesting because it's not that I tried to avoid that role like early on.
Like a church role?
Yeah, but like my dad was a pastor, and
Sure.
it's just like not hurt necessarily from the church, but I was like, I've just kind of been in that environment. I don't know if I want to go back. And God is faithful and loving that, he kind of allowed me to like have 6 or 7 years where I did ministry outside of that.
Yeah.
And so my goal in like coming here was just to be someone who could be used, someone who has opportunity to share the gospel. And they originally gave me like the offer to be the children's pastor. And I was like, oh man, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like just on that train of wanting that to happen. And I was just like, man, I don't feel like peace about it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of was like, hey, I've prayed about this. I don't think this is the best spot for me.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of like gave him my heart of like, hey, here lately, like discipleship, evangelism, outreach, reaching the community is like something that God is like really putting in my heart.
Yeah.
And, God is faithful because as soon as I turned that job down, like I'm like 5 minutes later through conversation, the pastor who I'm talking to at the time is just like, hey, we kind of want to offer you that, like what you just said. They were like, we've been wanting to do something like that, but like, we think you're like the right guy, for the job, and however that ended up working out. But it was kind of cool.
That's cool. So Word of Life is a parachurch organization, and then you're now working at a church. Yeah. So you've been building up, kind of appropriately. You've been building up in different roles. That was kind of like my leading question. You've been in these different roles. Do you think that they've prepared you? Building events, building discipleship, doing all these things as a para-church organization. Now you're transitioning into a body church community. Do you think that the multitude of roles, the multitude of responsibilities has prepared you for this role, and how so? If it has.
Yeah, no, I would say that's a loaded question.
Sure.
In the sense of like, yes, in some ways, no in others. Yeah. I think ministry is like this amazing opportunity that we get to serve. And we would agree that ministry is life, right? Yeah. And how you live and what you say and do and think is ministry, right? For the people around you. So you can really do it anywhere, working a 9 to 5 in a secular vocation to, and I don't know. I think it has prepared me in a lot of ways because I think being malleable is huge. I think that's like a huge quality people need in ministry. Yeah. Is understanding that not everything is going to go 100% right. Yeah. Right. Or 100% a certain way. Yeah. And needing to be, you know what? I'm okay to, kind of mold myself to this role or help out where I need to or back off where I need to. Yeah. And I think in ways of like, who can truly be prepared for, who gets to sit here and say like, I am 100% prepared, but I think it has, but there's the unknown, it's a church ministry I've never worked in. I've been a part of, but I've never like worked in that environment. So it's kind of like a Super Bowl is like kind of what they were saying. It's like when we come to church, like that's our, like the moment we get to serve them, which normally you go to church and you're the one being served. Sure. So it's a very like flip role. Yeah. So if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. And so as you're kind of like, you're learning what this church is going to be like, right? Mm-hmm. You've worked in this organization, Word of Life, for a long time, and you've been in this process of for lack of a better term, job hunting. Yeah. Right? You've been in this process of job hunting now for a while of like, hey, you know what? I know I want to go somewhere else and do something else. What's this lineup? What's it going to look like? And you're in that process. What does that process look like? There's a lot of people out here who maybe they're like, hey, you know what? I've never done church ministry or a parachurch organization, I'm looking into what does that process feel like or look like? And maybe we want to do it and jump into it. What did that look like for you in that job hunt?
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird. So not like a plug, but I used like a specific, it wasn't an app, but it was
like a service.
Yeah, like a service that kind of like.
What was the service?
I think it was Slingshot.
Slingshot?
Yeah, Slingshot. So
is that a ministry based like?
It is ministry based, but I think it's church focused.
Oh, okay,
which is cool. So
I've never heard of that.
Well, I had I think I just saw it somewhere.
Yeah.
Or someone told me about it. I really don't remember, but I signed up, got signed in. I don't even know if it cost me anything, genuinely. Yeah. So it was free.
It probably cost the church something to like.
Yeah. So you get to sign up for free unless they've changed it. So don't quote me. But then the church
you
pays.
get 15% off based off this.
Yeah.
One, right?
Can you imagine? Yeah. But I think like if the church hires someone from Slingshot, there's there's like something owed to.
Sure.
And there's a lot of companies that do that.
Yeah, of course.
But that's how I got involved, and they were really good because they connected you straight to like the pastor or the person that's like weeding through, or not weeding, I guess, but like sifting through and trying to figure out who's the best for the role, who would grow the most or be
like
the most
Christian
effective.
indeed.
Yeah. So, but it was really cool. That's how I got involved, and then a couple interviews because they interview you there.
Okay.
Like not like at a facility, but like they'll Skype in or something like that.
Okay.
Or FaceTime, and then when they like clear you, then they just like they really try to get you a job. So it was really easy. Like really, Slingshot did all the work, and once they connected me to Crosspoint and many other churches, it was really easy. So
that's really cool. Well, that's a great plug.
And it probably won't be maybe everyone's situation
no,
be
that
easy, but for me,
my brother-in-law, he's actually flying out to a church to do his final like meet the church body thing. But he's going to another state. I don't know what his process looked like, but I'm curious to hear if it was similar to like if he used something like that, like a service.
Well, and a cool thing too, it's like who you know sometimes. Like
absolutely.
Hear this one thing, get connected.
That's everywhere.
Connections are huge.
Yeah. So all right, so that's what it looked like actually finding the job. Mm-hmm. But tell me about like the actual like process of getting to know, because here's the thing. Unlike an organization like Word of Life, where we'll often talk about how we're the body of Christ, we're a family, but we're a staff, and we're a staff family, or however you want to quantify that. But like when you're joining a church, you intentionally like you are just the body of the church.
Yeah.
If maybe you disagree with that mindset, but like I see an organization where like, okay, we're all part of the body of believers, but I go to my church and I serve and I am a part of that family different than I am when I'm here at work. And all of us here, we don't go to the same church. We all go to different churches. You're a part of that church now.
Yeah.
You're a part of that community. You're going and you're meeting the lead pastor, you're going and meeting the staff, you're going and meeting people who are just members of the church who are serving in just a volunteer capacity or whatever. What does that look like? Does it ever feel intrusive to like kind of come in and be like, okay, can I be a part of this?
Yeah.
And how do you fit in? Like, what did it look like to try and fit in and figure out your spot in that place? Or have you not discovered that yet? Because your first day's on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So you don't know yet.
So I would say they did a good job of
tomorrow.
Integrating, just in the sense of like one of the interview processes that they went through is they were very clear on like, hey, this is like a family.
Sure.
Right?
No.
So, and choosing,
in a biblical sense.
Yeah. And choosing to be here, like we want to make sure we all meld well. We want to make sure that we get along and like, people aren't being spiky, which you'll get that we're human.
Sure.
We make mistakes. But by the grace of God, we can, work together for the good of the kingdom. And they did a really good job of like inviting me. I did this last Saturday, I went to like a meet and greet cookout and just of the staff members and their family just to get to know people. And they've done like a couple of those little things. So before I even get to work there, they've already started building like a relationship, which has been huge. And not every church has the ability or time or resource to do stuff like that. But I think that has been the most encouraging.
That's cool.
Because it doesn't feel like I'm getting thrown in.
Yeah.
It does, but it's not as scary because I'm like, oh, I know this guy, Eric, my boss. I know Pastor Costelli. I know these guys. And it sets a good foundation and a precedent for the time that I'm going to be there.
Yeah, no. And hopefully it's for a long time, great ministry,
well, that's the plan.
In a good community. Like you're reaching a community. No, that's really cool. I like that. So as you've gotten to know the church, you've gotten to know these people that are there. Every time you go into a new role, I mean, at least for me, when I go into a new role, or if I'm like getting put into a position of authority or something, I look and I say, okay, what are the things that I would want to change?
Yeah.
And then, but I also look and I go, okay, what are the things that I want to be careful that if I do want to change them, I'm very cautious on. And then there's some things I'm like, hey, I really like this. I'm not going to change it, or, I'm going to be content with this, whatever. What's your approach coming into a place like this? Like, are you coming in, you're like, okay, let's try and just like upset the whole thing and start over? Or are you trying to come in and be very intentional about like, okay, I'm going to fit into this family and this team here. What's that look like for you?
I think there's wisdom in not making immediate changes.
Agreed.
And it depends. Like, it's all situational.
Yeah.
Like, if, there's sin that needs to be rooted out, it's like, hey, let's point that out. Or if there's like, if it's less like, severe, I think the most like wisdom I've seen in coming in new roles, whether leadership or not, which I would argue that all forms of positions are leadership.
Yeah.
You have sway in your area.
We talked with Rich a couple weeks ago about how even when you're following, you're leading. Yeah. Like you're leading by following.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we all answer to someone, ultimately
Absolutely.
To the Lord.
Yeah.
Restate the question. Sorry. I trailed off. I forgot.
No, it's okay. So the question I have here is, what's your approach?
Oh, okay.
Like, I mean, do you have like a plan going in?
Yes.
Like a respectful plan, of course.
I know in my area, they've given me a lot of free reign. And with it being a position that wasn't...
It's a new role. It's a new position.
Hey, we want you for this job, which seems to be the theme, know. And maybe a lot of people can identify with that as well. Yeah. Going in very much not knowing what to expect. Yeah. My goal is just kind of like not to upset immediately. Now, the things that are completely in my control, I want to do the best to steward and if things need to be changed, like,
a little bit,
ask about it and be like, hey, I found like wherever you are, like the best way to get answers, it sounds corny, is to ask questions.
You're right.
And to, if I see something that's maybe could change and be done better, ask a question instead of a pointed like, hey, I think we should change this because this would be better. It's like, hey man, I've really been noticing that this is an area we can do better in. Like, what about this? What do you think about that? So I think asking questions is a big approach, and then not trying to go in guns blazing, at least for the first like year or two.
I was going to say, usually people often think like, well, I'll get to know the place in a couple months, but I mean, it's going to take years to get to know a place. And really, we were just talking about this with, we're working on a communication strategy for our missionaries. And one of the questions was raised of like, okay, how do we make sure that everybody's getting the communication and they're applying the communication that we're giving to them as quickly as possible? And I said, it's going to take years. Yeah. Like, we are about to start communicating with them, but the thing that we're doing is we're going to be consistent. We're going to send out this email with this information and then new information, but the email is going to go out every single, it's going to be every other week. But it'll go out every other week, and we're going to stay consistent in that. It's just like when we started this podcast. It was, we were asked like, hey, how often do you want to do the podcast? And someone said, maybe once a month would be good because that way, it's easy to get it done. Yeah, I said, I want to do once a week. And they're like, that's crazy. You could always go up to once a week. And I said, you never go up to more. You always, you're going to slide back. Yeah. Like, okay, we're going to do this less and less and less. But staying consistent, the same thing is true, I'm sure, for as you go into this role. Yeah. Okay, we're going to do something. We're going to stay consistent with it. We're going to build good habits. And I'm going to be intentional about not stepping on people's toes, but be intentional about building consistency. Yeah.
Well, and that's also not to say if like, we will stand before the Lord for how we act and what we say and what we think. So if like there is something that does need to change, like I think there is wisdom in not just approaching immediately. The wisdom dictates like, you have to go about it differently. You have to pray about it. You have to seek the Lord to act in the wisest manner. So that's not like the blanket statement of don't go in and change, but like, no, it's all in wisdom.
Absolutely.
And wisdom comes from the Lord. So it's like,
absolutely. So just, we talked about
spend time in the Word.
I was going to say, and spend time in prayer. Yeah. I mean, we talked about that a couple weeks ago. Like, we'll so often talk about building battle strategies to go and reach our community. But in actuality, the most powerful thing we can do, especially when we're starting something out, is spending time in prayer.
Yeah.
Has your approach changed as you've gotten to know the staff there?
I don't think, honestly.
No?
Yeah, because knowing what I was going to be hired for from the get-go, which I would say most jobs, and when you get jobs, you almost know pretty much what you're signing up for.
Yeah.
Not every case with ministry, but for discipleship and outreach, I don't think it's going to change anything. And in the interview process, I was also allowed to like ask questions to
and that's good.
the head pastor, the staff, and and one of my big things was, just like discipleship. Like if I'm being hired for this, like what's my jurisdiction? Like, am I allowed to ask you, right, pastor, not because I'm being paid, but like as a brother in Christ, like, can I ask you that? Can I ask and keep other people accountable?
Yeah, can you challenge?
Yeah, and they were super gung ho on board with it, and that's like the thing they want, because the first ministry that was kind of bleeding out, and I think a lot of churches can identify with this, is like an influx of people, right? Like, so the youth ministry was like dying out, and it's so sad. And that's not in every church, but in this church, they wanted to fix that first. And now that we have that, and we have some amazing youth pastors and people who really love the ministry, specifically called to that, now we can start to like fill in these other areas.
So a couple of weeks ago, we talked with Gerard, and he said, youth want a mission. And I think all of us, can relate to that. We want purpose. We want mission. We don't just want to be entertained. We do want to be entertained, but the laziness in us only wants to be entertained.
Yeah.
And the part of us that wants to accomplish something wants mission, wants purpose. And so I think that's kind of what it sounds like helped revive their youth ministry. Hopefully it'll revive the discipleship and the community outreach of what you're doing there too.
When it seemed to be like stepping stones, like not that one had to be accomplished before, but like they started to fix, and now it's like building. Yeah. Because now the discipleship and the outreach because it goes hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, right? Yeah. Jesus, before, he ascends, is talking to the disciples and says, like, go into all the earth, right? And make disciples. So it's like one after the other, hand in hand. So, and I think that's the thing I'm trying to discover is like how do I get to marry those two concepts? Because we talk about them, right? Because they are different words. Yep. But we talk about them so separately sometimes, do this, then this. And I think that's true, right? Evangelism, right? Yeah. Going out, preaching the good news. When they accept, you can then sanctification can happen.
And disciple.
But you still do it in that process, but trying to like marry both ideas to just have a better gauge on like how to approach.
Especially in a community like that. I mean, like
especially in a church.
Yeah. You're right there. You're within the community. Like if you evangelize in the community, there's no excuse to be like, okay, well, go find a good church. Like, no, you're the body right there. Like, come over here.
All right,
we're gonna help you
getting saved. Pat on the back. You're good to go.
See ya. Yeah. Got your get out of jail free card. Like, no, that's not what you guys are trying to accomplish. I'm gonna go back to something that I brought up earlier. The staff and family mentality. There's a lot of people talking on social media. I mean, you've heard of the term quiet quitting and things like that before? No? So quiet quitting is this idea of like, do just your job, And so it's been labeled as quiet quitting, and there's a lot of people who push back and say, listen, you gave us this job, we're doing this job. Yeah. In a church and in a ministry, oftentimes, even in our job description here at Word of Life, it says, there's a whole list of job description, and then says, you're expected to step up and help with things when events get overloaded. Like we have a huge group come in, the ACE group comes in, and I help work in the kitchen. All of us, we help work in the kitchen twice a week or twice a year when that happens, when that comes up. Right. So, oftentimes that's the part that gets labeled as staff versus family. But even on social media now, I'll see things of like, people will not take a job if in the description it says, hey, we're like a family here. In a ministry, I think there's, especially at a church, there's a different side of that perspective that kind of comes into play because we are a family, as in we're all part of the body of, and we are brothers and sisters in Christ. And so in your mind, are those two things differentiated? Like, do you see your role at the church? Let me just be more specific. Yeah. Do you see your role at the church as just a staff position, as just a job, you're making money there? Or do you see it as, hey, I'm there as a family member. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm never going to clock hours. I'm never going to like keep up with anything. Or do you see it as somewhere in between? Do they have to kind of meet in the middle somewhere?
Yeah, they definitely have to meet in the middle.
Because I think a lot of people in pastoral positions, youth pastors especially, find themselves in this exact conundrum.
Yeah, and that's where like a lot of burnout happens.
Yeah,
like
if you're only doing the one side,
like passion meets expectation.
Yep.
Like, or unspoken expectation.
Yep.
It's really easy to get burned out. But I think there's wisdom, right? Your first ministry, first and foremost, is your family.
Yep. Amen.
Right? You with a wife and daughter understand that.
Completely.
And anyone else with a family. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think that's the tough thing. It's like knowing when to, and I think the church, so going into Crosspoint, they've been very clear on like, hey, these are the days that we like do the most that we can to get the events in the future set up, but also on our Sundays, and we have church on Tuesdays, unless that changes. But those are our like times to shine. That's when we really pour in.
Yeah.
And they make a really good distinction between like work but that's why we have cookouts and random events.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And none of them are required. You know? So that's helpful. But I would say it's in the middle somewhere. It's just like you have to use wisdom because I think I can find myself and maybe everyone can at some point being the person that's like, that's not in my job description. And I very much have that lean.
I've done that.
Yeah. And I think in some ways, yes, because you don't want to build like a toxic culture.
Yeah.
But in other ways, I think what I've found is sometimes I just have to like in the moment just recognize like, okay, maybe this is not something that I'm being like required to do as in like in my job description, but is this something that is going to bless someone?
Yeah.
And it's trying to like view it through the lens of serving versus like that's just not what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's hard because sinfully, I think we lean a lot of times.
Yeah, all the way.
At least for me. Maybe not everyone else, but we lean to that. That's not my job.
There might be other people who lean the exact opposite way.
Yes.
And I know people who are that way. And I there was points where I did the one side where I was like, everything's my job. I'm never going to clock hours.
Yeah.
And I got burnout. And then I went to the other side and I said, okay, you know what? I'm only going to do. And now I've found a good medium that I think like, I mean, my priority is my family, and then it's the like serving in my church and my community. And there are times where I'll come and help with events at Word of Life if my time allows it, and I'll come help, and it's outside of my regular work hours, and I'll say, I'm just going to come help with this. I'm not going to clock in for anything. Like this is just something I can help with. Because I believe in what the ministry is here. But you can't do that if you're burnt out and you become bitter. Yeah. And it's such an easy place to end up.
That's so easy to like spiral into.
Absolutely.
Doing an internship or something where you're not getting paid, but you're still being asked to work a certain amount or do a certain amount. Yeah. It can be, or any other job. Like you don't think you're getting paid high enough. And a lot of it is perspective, like trying to take a step back and evaluate. Yeah. Right. And knowing that us like agreeing to something is huge. So if you agreed to that thing, it doesn't mean that you're in the right or they're in the wrong, or you're in the wrong or they're
but you
in the
agreed
right.
to it.
But you agreed to it. So it's, I think what I found more than anything is before I agree to something, right? I think that's such a biblical truth of not being hasty in your decisions. Yeah. But just kind of like taking a step back and being like, okay. Yeah. Is this something good? And the way I found is every time I pray, or I bring something to the Lord, that he gives me peace about it, And with the church, that's kind of like how it went. In every position I've had, it's just been like a sporadic, oh, hey, you want to do this? And then boom, I'm working that job. And but it's always been peace. Like, it's, you can have anxiety and confusion, but, God is a God of peace. And, that's been something that's followed any decision that I make.
No, that's good.
So
good. Yeah, no, I guess it's something I've wanted to talk about on the podcast for a long time, is that whole, we talk about staff, we talk about family, and just like everything, my dad used to always say, and everybody, I'm sure this is a pretty common piece of advice, is everything in moderation. I mean, my dad would always talk about it. I'd be like, what, I can't drink soda? And he's like, listen, you're in high school now. You want to drink Mountain Dew every single day? Yeah, your teeth are going to rot out when you're 30. Yeah. Like moderation. And so now, obviously, I'm much more conscious of it almost being 30. Yeah. That's just part of growing up. But building that conscientiousness in my role with my family now, the ministry I have at my church, and then my job here, which is also like all three of those things involve ministry.
Yeah.
Finding that balance has made a big difference as I've looked at, okay, the staff versus family. Like my family is my priority.
Yeah.
And what's that look like to be part of a family in my church and a staff family, whatever you want to call it, here at the organization that I work at, Word of Life, and finding that balance.
I think the boundaries are huge. Drawing healthy boundaries, because you don't want the pendulum to swing, like you said, to
And it does.
being salty and always, I don't want to do that.
I've been on both sides of that pendulum swing, and I'd like to think that I'm at least somewhere in the middle, maybe not at least all the way in one direction at least, but somewhere in the middle, and that's where I try and land that moderation. So last question here is, why'd you decide to pursue a job like this? And what are you hoping to, I guess it's two questions, but what are you hoping to accomplish in the community? Why? I mean, you're here, you're in, I mind if I say where the church is at? I mean, you're in Spring,
No,
you're in Spring Hill.
Yeah. In the area, 20 minutes.
Yeah. Why here? What good are you going to accomplish in a community here in Florida?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I try to follow in like a job or a ministry or anything I've done is like, is it going to be very useful? Not in what I'm getting paid or in the earthly monetary, like just going to burn away, right? Is it going to be eternal, like something of value? Yeah. And all that to say is like the gospel, right? So with the church, and that's why I loved Word of Life. Word of Life's focus on evangelism is like insane. And I love it. Yeah. And we use every opportunity. And that was something that I was able to jump on and say yes, because at the very core of who I am, one of my spiritual gifts is evangelism. And that's something I desire. I desire people to hear
I love that.
The good news, right? For their lives to be changed. And I think with the church, it wasn't something that I was like necessarily going and seeking, but I knew that God was moving me from here. And it wasn't in like this big boom explosion way where it's like, whoa, God has called me to go somewhere else. Because it doesn't always work that way. He doesn't always like slam the door open and say, here, come this way.
My mom would always say, if you think a door is open, walk toward it. And then you'll see. Like, I mean, if the door stays open and you think that it's God honoring, walk through the door.
Well, and here's the thing. I praise the Lord and I get so excited, and it doesn't always feel great, but when a door shuts, like that's a good thing. Because sometimes God needed to get you to this area so that you could see something over here. You know, you wouldn't have saw it back here. But that first or second or whatever the doors were that opened and shut, it all gets you, it's progressive, it moves forward. But with the church, like it just kind of worked out the way it did. And the thing I would love to accomplish is, because I'm in discipleship and outreach or evangelism, a little caveat, is just really just reaching the community. And because the gospel is so awesome in that it saves us, from our sins. Believing in Jesus Christ transforms us. It saves us. And it's a reminder to the believers of what of what God has done for us, right? But then it's salvation to those who don't know Jesus. So it's a double thing for me. It's a reminder to disciple in the church and say, hey, because of these things, we need to be growing in our knowledge and our understanding, but also in what we do, what we say, how we think. Because sanctification is a process that completely transforms you. And just kind of trying to have those two things. And the church was good on that. It's like, hey, we're a church that is focused on evangelism. And you can tell just in numbers don't really mean anything outside of like what's the real depth to what they're doing? What's the substance? And it's just really cool that they evangelize well. And the place that they're kind of bleeding out is discipleship. It's like, well, now that we have the people here, how do we cultivate? How do we grow deeper? And that's the two things that I wanted to do, and that's the two hopes that I have. Is not only and at the end of the day, they don't have to go to Crosspoint. Right. This is not like a plug to say like, hey, Crosspoint is the only church for you, or hopefully no one says that about their church. in particular, but it's really just pointing to Jesus and saying, hey, this person came to save you. Jesus came to save you from all of your sins.
Yeah.
And because of that, now you can walk in life. So those two are the big things I want to accomplish. Preach the gospel and show them how to walk, in newness of life.
Yeah.
So
Amen. I love that, man. Well, that wraps it up for today. We're not doing small group right now, unfortunately. I know. But Tyler, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
Guys, this has been Stacking Chairs. We've been talking about what's it look like to move into a new role. Tyler's outlook on all this. Tyler, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you
for being here. Guys, make sure you check us out on Stacking Chairs Pod at everywhere on social media. Stacking Chairs Pod at WOL.org. Send us an email. Join us in our Stacking Chairs community on Facebook. Look us up. Join the group. We'd love to have your input. And finally, check out the Portion Conference. You'll see the link below and in the bio. And guys, don't forget to stack those chairs.
Stack those chairs.